Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into a very special episode of the Dungeon of the Doctors of Doom Fantasy Football Podcast. Because this week we're the VMAs, and no, that's not the Video Music Awards. That's the Vinny, Mitch, and Alex gives you your hot takes as well as some cold ones on what's going on in the world of sports. A lot of sports happening right now. Huge NFL trade today. Also, hockey playoffs, basketball playoffs, and even some soccer going on. So let's get right into it, boys. Say hello to everyone out there in Radioland.
Hello.
Sup, Radio Land. We can't do too many hot takes because apparently Mitchell records sporting matches or events and then doesn't watch them until 3 days later. So welcome to the Vinny, Mitch, Alex, not quite so up to date sports hot takes.
If you're not ready to talk about basketball and hockey, I'm sorry, but it's really going to be hard to avoid because seeing as most of our podcast is recorded with ESPN open in the background, we'll be challenging to avoid.
The problem is I'm such a loser and I don't miss any soccer games legit in the last 14 years. So if I can't watch it live, I wait later and I go to work and then I come home and I'm so excited and I watch it live. Or not live, I mean I watch the replay illegally on a stream site. So what Vinny's talking about is the soccer matches, but we can talk basketball, football, and hockey. We'll be good.
Yeah, Alex, maybe go to the NBA homepage.
The soccer homepage.
Okay, we'll avoid soccer then, but there's also baseball going on. Not that anyone cares about baseball until we get into
what
playoffs
sport
here.
is that? You talking
America's Pastime, also known
game
as the
30,
show.
Game 30 of America's Pastime.
Yeah. Game 30 of 196 that they play on the year.
Yeah.
So does anyone have any particular games that they want to talk about that have happened recently? If not, I have some we can go over, but is there any burning things you want to talk about? I'm opening up the floor to you guys first before I, jet in here.
I mean, I think we'll probably cover it at some point, but for me, it's just the bottom half of the Western Conference bracket with the Warriors facing the Timberwolves, so the 7th seed and the 6th seed as the 1 and 4 seed kind of duke it out on the other side. So, it's just one of those things. I mean, as a Lakers fan, obviously, I think it was disappointing, but the Timberwolves played really good, and then Ant Edwards follows it up with a 1-point first half in game 1. So
that's the problem. That's what bothers me.
It's just crazy, It's
who's guarding him the whole time? Who was guarding him the whole time on the Warriors? They brought in some 7th guy that they don't even use. That's the part that's frustrating. Is he'll probably go off, but you have that whole, and then they lose, and then they go out and lose to a Steph Curry-less Warriors team is pretty heartbreaking for me. That was going to be my main point. So I got nothing else.
Also, yeah, so Alex, let's just say that has round 2 of the basketball playoffs not been just wild? So yeah, to catch everyone up on what's happening. So yeah, like they said, the T-Wolves beat the Lakers, which has Luka and LeBron. And then they lay an egg against the Warriors, who lost Curry in the second quarter, which we'll talk about. The Knicks come back from down 20 to beat the Celtics, who are the defending NBA champions. The Cavs, who have been world beaters all season, are down 2-0 to the Pacers. And the Thunder and Nuggets are playing too, but I don't really have much to say about that one. But yeah, so the second round's been wild. But yeah, let's finish up on the first round. I want to talk about Luka one more time because that's something that keeps coming up, and I realize I'm biased, but I've got a conspiracy theory for you guys. Now, first of all, people have been talking does it validate the trade because the Lakers got bounced in the first round? My answer is no, because the Lakers improved once they got Luka and they made the playoffs. Yeah, they lost in the first round. Luka was also sick during those games, but even if he wasn't, they made it. The Mavs didn't. Terrible trade. Moving on. However, Luka has a player option coming up to stay with the team or leave. What if this whole thing was a scheme with Luka on the inside where he gets traded to the Lakers, then doesn't exercise his player option, and then re-signs with the Mavericks, and now he's right back where he wanted to be, plus they picked up Anthony Davis, then it makes the GM look like a genius. Any chance that's the conspiracy that really happened here?
At most, he's going to... Did you see his face when he returned? He cried on the sideline. At most, he's going to use the Mavs to create a higher like I mean I know he's gonna get max, but no, he's basically gonna use the Mavs now against the Lakers. It's gonna be even more
Yeah.
embarrassing for the
That,
Mavs
that
Also,
was
I'm pretty
obviously a
sure, like,
GS. I mean, this is just
I'm pretty
wishful
sure
thinking as a Mavericks
the
and
max,
Luka fan.
I think the max contract difference is almost like $100 million too. So like, there's no way that he likes Dallas enough to be like, yeah, dude, trade me. I'll come back. I'll sign for less. The max deal that's less. And he'd have to be one hell of an actor for that conspiracy theory to be true. But it would be pretty funny. Yeah, the one thing I have to say about that is like, don't get me wrong. I think that people deserve money late in their career as like a thank you. I mean, it's the same thing that kind of happened with Kobe towards the end of his career, taking all this money. I could see Steph being that person for the Warriors, Dwayne Wade for the Heat. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. I do not think LeBron has done enough for the Lakers that we should be okay paying him $55 million next year on a freaking player option. Like the fact that he's still a Laker just milking their last dollar, and I know that he brings in fans and entertainment, but sports fans should care about winning. I don't think LeBron has done enough to warrant the type of money he's doing. Now, for the game of basketball, yes, for sure. For the Lakers, zero chance. I hate how much money they've paid him over the last like 3 seasons. I just think they'd be better off with now that they have Luka as a point man. I honestly think they'd be better off without LeBron. Send him back to the Cavs. See what happens. Anyway, that's my kind of hot take for getting bounced 4-1 in the first round of the freaking Timberwolves.
Fair enough. All right. Any other big surprises? I mean, a lot of the higher seeded teams struggled in the Western Conference. I mean, the Warriors, beat the Rockets. They're the 2 seed. T-Wolves beat the Lakers. They're the 3 seed. Nuggets did end up winning their series, but it did go to 7 games. OKC swept, so we're not going to discuss that one. But whereas Chalk won pretty easily in the East, it was all 4-1s, and then I think 4-0. Whereas in the West, it was not chalk. The top seeds got upset. Do you guys think there's any reason for that? Do you just think the Western Conference is more balanced than the Eastern Conference? Or is there anything you can point to specifically that you think led to that?
The East are very top heavy, and that's probably why. It's like I don't even think it's surprising the Knicks won that game, came back from 20, but I'd be really shocked if they even win like maybe one more. They're gonna win their what's it called? Their home game, game 3 at home. So they might win one. I'd be kind of shocked. The Cavs and the Celtics are the only like we kind of knew that before the playoffs. Though with the West, we didn't even know who was going to win the play-in games. So I think it's just more spread out. I think the trade with Doncic and Anthony Davis definitely shook that up a little bit in the middle. The Timberwolves lost like I think it was like 8 of 16 at the end of the year or something like that to drop. And then the Nuggets didn't have a good start at the beginning of the season. So I think it's just those combinations that if the Nuggets are probably on a hangover of the last 3, 4 years of being in a, you know what I mean? So I think it's all a combination of all those with the upcoming Thunder. If the Thunder didn't have the record that they have, it'd have been even more wild of a Western playoffs. I think it's just the way the teams are at. I don't necessarily know if it's actually a talent disparity because in the end, the Warriors got Jimmy Butler win like a month ago, so it's kind of
Yeah,
hard
the
to
trades.
tell. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
just a little bit more. Yeah, whereas from the beginning of the year, it was Celtics, Cavs, and you kind of knew that, and it's played out that way. So yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah, I agree with that take. I think I mean, the Eastern Conference, I'll be, like Mitch said, I'll be so surprised if the Celtics don't win this. And I even think down 2-0, the Cavs should still be heavy favorites to come back and win. But who knows? I mean, it's 2-0 is kind of hard. I think what's crazy is like the Lakers, the Warriors, the Clippers were not that good going into the All-Star break. Like, kind of down there in that, like, are they going to be playing? Are they going to be the 8 seed? Are they going to be the 7 seed? And naturally, the Warriors ended up in the play-in. Same thing with the Timberwolves. They kind of dabbled in the play-in there for a second. And then after the All-Star break, the Warriors, the Lakers, and the Clippers were the 3 hottest teams in the NBA. And they're rocking five seeds, 7 seeds, and the Lakers worked their way up to a 3 seed. And the Timberwolves, who weren't that hot, obviously are still a really good team. So I just think 2 through 8 in the West, or 2 through 7 in the Western Conference Finals, every single one of them is good enough to go to the NBA Finals. I think it's hard to say that the Warriors aren't the favorite in the Western Conference as a 7 seed, just how well they've been playing since they acquired Jimmy Butler. Now we'll see how hurt Steph is. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, so I was going to comment on that. So it is a hamstring issue. He's expected to miss 1 week. Now, basketball series, they take place over time, and Golden State does have a 1-game lead. So, I mean, that is some cushion there because, they could end up going down, 2-1, 3-2, what have you, and then him come back and, have a couple that he can win. As you can see, the odds here, Minnesota's getting 10.5 points now with Steph being out for game 2, even though it's in San Francisco. So, obviously, Vegas is not betting on the Warriors, at least for the next game. What do you guys think? Assuming, now obviously they're going to have to say, they're going to say he's going to be back in a week. We don't know what's really going to happen. But if he really is back in a week, meaning he's going to miss, 2 games, maybe 3? If he really is back in a week, do you think that Jimmy Buckets can keep this team together long enough that he comes back and the Warriors still win?
I think if they're down 2-1, they have a shot. If it's 3-1, no.
What if it's 3-2? Do you think he can come back and go runner?
Away home.
So
that's tough.
Jimmy Bucket's got to pick up one of the next 3. They're down 3-2. He comes back. They get one home game. Then they got to win away in a game 7.
That's tough. I think it's doable. I just don't like the odds with Steph out a week.
Even with a healthy Steph, I don't think they get past the Timberwolves. And
that's what I was going to ask you, Mitch, because Vinny said he had them as their favorite to win the West. So that's why I was curious.
And I don't think any team's getting past. I mean, I know the Thunder are really good, and I just don't. For me, again, this always comes down to Jokic. I don't think with a healthy Warriors, healthy Timberwolves will not get past the Nuggets. Is my opinion. Is what I'm trying to say. So, I mean, I'm rooting for Anthony Edwards. I really like him. He's slowly becoming one of my favorite athletes in all of sports. So, but I might be a little biased on this, but I don't even think with a healthy Steph they can get by. Unless Butler's going to switch off and play on Anthony Edwards more, then that's going to hurt him offensively, which they don't really need, I guess. But see, I don't know. This is tough. That one's a tough one, but I would pick Timberwolves still.
Speaking of the Nuggets, they're doing their thing, right? They got past the Clippers. They're up a game on the Thunder. This is a team that fired their coach with a week left in the regular season. Do you think that the coaching change has had any difference in their actual play in the games, or do you think they're kind of playing the same way they would? And follow-up question, if they do manage to make it to the finals or even win the whole thing, does that change your opinion on the firing? Because I think we were all kind of thought that it was a strange firing. It didn't make sense at the time. But if they end up winning the whole damn thing, do you think that justifies firing the coach with a week left in the season when they were the 3 seed at the time?
I'm not sure what the firing was for or not.
Yeah, I mean, none of us do, but I'm just saying, from a basketball standpoint, would that justify the firing?
I don't think I'll have to stay consistent. No, I don't think so. And I think this probably is just spillage over, this team's been together for so long. Aaron Gordon's playing better than I've seen him in the last 3-4 years. I think this could just be spillage of the same. I mean, they didn't all of a sudden change their offense, change their schemes, change their plays. At some point, I mean, this would be a good topic. How much does a head coach really matter when you have a team that's been together for 3, 4, 5 years in the NBA? That's an eternity in the NBA, and they run, the plays they can anytime. I know growing up, a lot of times, a good point guard who could call plays was actually more important than the head coach. Because the point guard called the plays coming down. So it's I'm not sure. This is probably just, if it was a culture change, then sure. But they've won so much the last couple of years. It's really hard for me to say that the head coach being fired is the reason why they're doing well when they've done well in the playoffs every single year. So I don't know. I think the head coach firing that's going to be. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question as well. If they win a championship, I don't think it's against the head coach. Unless we find out that he was being toxic or something. I don't know. Because what if he had nothing to do with the play? Sorry, Vinny, real quick. What if he had nothing to do with the players? What if the problem wasn't with the players, it was just him and management? Then him getting fired would have almost costed them a championship rather than them holding on and still winning a championship. I don't know.
No, I was going to say, I agree. I think being so late in the season, even though it's strange, I do feel like it almost benefits because it's somebody who's been within the system the whole time. It's not super early in the season where you're looking for a interim coach who may be coming from outside facilities. And like Mitch said, this is the same team it's been for the last few years. It's not significantly different. It's the same superstars. And yeah, like Mitch said, we could talk about how we think coaches affect. When you have Jokic on the team, just give him the ball. It's not. I don't think their game plan should be that difficult. Like you have somebody who, if he continues to do this for a couple more years, could go down as one of the best players of all time. Like just give him the ball. Let Jamal Murray do his thing. Again, Gordon's playing great. I just don't. It just can't be that hard to coach the Nuggets right now.
The irony of the give him the ball statement is in that epic game winner where they gave him the ball, he wasted 13 seconds, chucked up an air ball, and then Gordon put it back with the dunk.
I've seen him make those though. Like
I know. I totally agree. You
times.
should always give your superstar the ball, but the most recent time they just gave him the ball. That's what happened. But it still worked out. No, I totally agree. I think like if it were me and I'm an assistant coach on the Nuggets and all of a sudden I get called upstairs and like, hey, we fired the head coach. You're taking over for the rest of the year. And there's a week left in the season and it's a team that won the title 2 years ago. I'm not changing shit. I'm going into work and I'm like, hey guys, you know what you did yesterday? Do that today. I'll be over here. All right? Whatever you guys were doing yesterday, you do it again today and tomorrow and the next day, and we're going to get through the season, and we both know I'm not going to be the coach after that because they're going to hire somebody else. But yeah, I don't think the coaching change had anything to do with it. I think, and I forget where I heard this, so I want to give credit where it's due. I'm sure it was on ESPN somewhere. I just don't know what show or who said it. But they think that they wanted to move on from the coach because of the issues with management, and it was going to be a lot harder to do that if the Nuggets went on a run and won. And so they wanted to go ahead and fire him before the playoffs because they didn't want to risk keeping him on as coach and to fire him at the end of the season, which is when they wanted to fire him. And then what if the Nuggets go on a run and then win? And then it's an even bigger story. Whereas if you fire him right before the playoffs, it's a big story. But then the playoffs start and that kind of swallows up the news cycle. People forget about it. And then if you go on a run, you get to say, it had nothing to do with the coach. And if they don't go on a run, well, then hopefully people are talking about other teams doing stuff and not about your organization because you're out of the playoffs.
The Nuggets have gone in the last 6 years since 2019. They've gone to the conference finals 3 times, so 50% of the time, and 2 of them are against the Lakers. So for me, I'm very biased that until Jokic is beaten and the Nuggets are beaten, it's all about him, and that's why when it came down to Timberwolves and Warriors, thought it's just like, ooh, that's gonna be so good to watch, but I think they're just gonna get beat by the Nuggets.
All right, boys.
Jokic is king. Yeah, sorry, go on. I was just trying to fill the air, but Jokic is king.
Any other basketball stories you want to talk about? Because if not, I got some. We got some NFL news and then some hockey stories and whatnot.
No, just watch it.
Not so much, but yeah, I think the only other basketball story is like, how bad must it have been in Miami? Because, dude, Jimmy Butler's been with the Golden State Warriors for what, like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and he seems like he's best friends with that entire team and just like living his best life, and like literally would not show up to practice and hated his team in Miami. So like, you ever just wonder like how bad things can be in certain places to get like your superstar so turned off on what's going on, and it's just crazy. Like there's all these like little bits of him and Buddy Hield like at press conferences and stuff, and I'm like, man, like it's crazy. Like is Buddy Hield like that much of a glue guy, or is the organization in Golden State just that much better? Like it's an interesting kind of thought.
No, I think Jimmy. I'm going to take this one a little bit differently because usually I will err on the side of the athlete, but I think this one's Jimmy Butler. I think Jimmy Butler's trying to make it like his buddy. Like he doesn't put any effort into what teammates when he's not happy, and when he's happy, he's going to try and be like, "Look how great of a person I am." I think this is Jimmy Butler with his track record and history. Some of the stories I've heard from like my favorite basketball and Charles Barkley, but besides Barkley, Jeff Teague. If you don't listen to Jeff Teague, he's amazing. Some of the stories he tells, some of the stories, unfortunately, I have to listen with Kevin Garnett and his podcast and all these other stories. Like Butler's wild. Butler is from stories of, trying to copy Kobe without letting anyone wear his shoes to playing like with only the reserves in Chicago. There's a story with Derrick Rose telling a story where he played with all the backups against the starters and beat the starters and said, "You
Yeah.
guys don't want to pay me. You don't want to pay me," or something like that. I think as if like let's pretend you were the head coach of the Miami Heat and you had to coach Jimmy Butler. If you're not winning now, which is the reason why he left for the Heat. I don't know. I'm gonna have to put a little bit on Jimmy Butler on this one, and I'm usually the person who errs on the side of the athlete. So, yeah, I don't. You'd have to be behind closed doors for this one. And Pat Riley seems to be doing fine for 9, 10 years with going to six, finals with LeBron and Wade, and he got Kobe, not Kobe, sorry. He got Shaq in the Shaq trade coming from Kobe with Dwayne to pair up with Dwayne Wade. They've been fine for closer to 15, 18 years. It wasn't until Jimmy Butler got there these last couple of years to where it was like, oh, who doesn't want to go play in Miami out of all the cities you could go play in? Do you want to go play in Cleveland or do you want to go play in Miami? Miami doesn't need to work that hard to bring in superstars. I think this one's a little bit more on Jimmy Butler than anything else. I'll just
Oh,
be
100%. And also keep in mind, like, if you have a reputation of being a bad teammate, which is kind of the reputation he was getting, or had, however you want to say it,
trying real
and
hard
you,
right now.
go to a new team, what are you going to do? You're going to try real hard to change that image.
Yeah.
Now, eventually your real personality comes out. If he really was the problem in Miami, he will be a problem in Golden State at some point, right? But people don't show their true colors right away, right? There's a reason when, like, so many marriages end in divorce. I didn't realize how awful of a person they were. It's like, yeah, because they didn't show you that until they got you to marry them. Then they let their real persona come out. So, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, I don't know what the problem was with most problems. It was probably on both sides. But I think it's silly to be like, oh, Jimmy Butler seems like a model citizen and teammate now. Like, yeah, of course he does right now. He's been there for a couple of months. He's going to act, like everything's perfect.
And I do enjoy, like, sorry, Coach.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, as much as I am going against your answer, Vinny, or hating on Butler, I do enjoy watching the Warriors with Butler. They are such a good defensive team and enjoyable to watch with Draymond and Butler. It's going to be it's so easy to root against them. When Anthony Edwards is like my upcoming favorite athlete, and the other team's got Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler, it's like it makes it fun to watch, like a good guy, bad guy. But sorry, Alex, go on.
Well, yeah, and I was going to say, like, I know one of the things that Butler had an issue with, allegedly, was work ethic, right? He had issues with the work ethic in Miami. Well, at least, again, allegedly, that's kind of one of the things he claimed. But, like, well, that's not going to be a problem in Golden State. This is an organization that has won multiple championships in the last decade, and they have a head coach who, is going to have respect, not only because of his success as a coach, but also as a player. So the culture there is probably very different. And I'm not bashing Spoelstra and the Heat, but I'm just saying, like, you're coming into a championship organization, like a recent championship culture organization. So you can't come in and act like you're better than them. Whereas Miami, he could, because he was the star. He's not the star in Golden State. Now he is right now with Steph out. But when Steph's on the court, no one's look. I'm as big of a Jimmy Buckets fan as the next guy, especially playoff Jimmy Buckets. I think he's one of the best playoff players of all time. Not players of all time, but playoff players of all time.
Definitely.
And so, like, I'm as big of a fan of him as the next guy. But if I were to go to a Golden State game, I'm not looking for him on the court. I'm looking for Steph, right? Whereas if I went to a Miami Heat game in the last few years, I'd be looking for him, right? So I think that might take some of it off too. Like, you can't act like the big dog when you're not the big dog anymore. Not to say that he's not still a relevant player, not to say he's not still a star, but I'm saying, like, you can't go around peacocking when you're not the biggest cat in the house. You know what I'm saying?
Not to bring it back to the Lakers.
Do you go around peacocking, Alex?
Oh, I'm peacocking all the. Who's bigger than me, bro? I'm the biggest guy you know, aren't I? Ain't no one out peacocking this.
I mean, so I got really quiet after.
I've lost nearly. Sorry to interrupt. I've lost like 120 pounds, and I'm still the biggest fucking guy you know. So I can peacock all I want.
He's still peacocking.
Yeah.
I didn't know how, because Vinny raised an interesting point. Go back to the earlier podcast, and he said the stuff about the Lakers and about LeBron being off the team, and then I didn't because I wasn't sure, but like I think though, going back to replaying 2015, 16, all the way to 19, when we've got like the Ball kid and Randall, and they're all egoing each other, there is something to say about having LeBron like Curry. Alex just said that when they come in, like no matter who you get, they're not going to ego and they just kind of fall in line. Like Jimmy Butler's got such a huge personality and he just kind of falls in line because Curry's there. A lot of players, if they come to a LeBron-led team, they'll fall in line more often than not. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know if he's necessarily worth the money we're paying him. It's obviously like paying for past, or whatever, you have to. That's the price of him. But yeah, that's a very interesting thing, and that's why I didn't say anything earlier. But I think having LeBron's presence could just be enough for his minutes would go down. Sure, I get it, but yeah, that's why I didn't say anything earlier. But then Alex bringing up the part about Steph Curry, being the big dog over Butler, it's like yeah, that's what kind of LeBron does for us. Like if we had LeBron and those young players like Ball and Randall, I don't think it would have been like daycare all those years. Maybe they would have, I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess but the problem is like we don't get those players because LeBron's eating 60 million of our cap every year.
That's true. That's a very good point. That's why I just got really dead quiet. And it's like, well, I should say something.
And then they had Anthony Davis fall in line only to score like 30 one night and like 5 the next. So
Yeah,
but he's really good on defense, guys, as we've established. He's so good defensively.
Apparently,
the 17 minutes he played in Dallas this season, oh man, he had a great plus minus.
Yeah, he would get eaten alive by these like big. So it's just an interesting.
I mean, as much as I hate to defend Anthony Davis, that's not his fault. You can't play a guy at the 5 when he should be a 3. I mean, So, anyway, yeah. So that's our basketball talk for now. So let's move on to some hockey. I don't know if you guys have been following the hockey at all. I have. It's super fun. We had a ton of Game 7s. We had 2 Game 7s, but we had a ton of amazing games, overtime games, close games to finish out series. The one that was the most infuriating to me personally was the Jets Blues series. Jets were the 1 seed. Any chance you guys watched this? You know what I'm talking about? What happened in Game 7?
Yes. Yeah.
So the Blues were up by 2 goals with 2 minutes left in the game in Game 7. You'll notice the Jets are in round 2 and the Blues are not. The Jets managed to score twice in the last 2 minutes of the game, and then it went to double overtime before they scored the game winner, which was a particularly big slap to me because, as you all know, I'm very anti-Canada, just for fun. I actually don't have any real issue with the people of Canada, but just I like rooting against Canadian sports teams and hockey because it's funny to me. And there was a chance
because we grew up with South Park.
Yeah, mainly because of South Park. There was a chance. Well, that's not true. There was a movie called Canadian Bacon back in the day with John Candy. If you've never seen it, the movie's fantastic. But it talks about how it's the longest unprotected border in the world. Canadians flow among us like maple syrup. It's funny. Anyway, all that aside, that ended up putting a 3rd Canadian team into the second round, including a couple of, top seeds, which, not great, having top seeded Canadian teams there. So they're on a run. Well, not on a run, but they managed to get into the second round by that miracle comeback versus the Stars. The Stars had a 10-game losing streak going into the playoffs, which they hadn't had all season, but then they still managed to win in 7. So who knows how good they are right now. And then the other story, which again is Canadian, unfortunately, is the Oilers. The Oilers have now broken a record for the most comeback wins. They've had 5 consecutive comeback wins in the Stanley Cup playoffs, which really hurt when they beat the Kings because, living in California, I saw a couple of Kings games. And then the Golden Knights were up 2-0, and I was like, sweet, let's beat these Oilers because they're a team that went to the Stanley Cup, the playoffs, or not the playoffs, but to the championship game last year and almost won it. I would prefer they not make it back. And they came back and won the game 4-2. So, not looking great for Team USA. And again, all the U.S. teams have plenty of Canadians on them. But, as far as not letting Canadian hoist Lord Stanley's Cup, which they haven't done since the 90s.
When did the Jets come back to Winnipeg?
They're an expansion team from a few years ago. Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. This Jets organization is slightly more successful than the one in New York. Go on, Vinny. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I haven't actually stopped to watch a whole lot, but I did get a chance to watch that the end of the double overtime game and kind of see that whole thing. I am kind of like one of those like fair weather fans. Like I root for Vegas just because I like the Raiders and I kind of bought into Vegas's like first season and for the hockey, so the Golden Knights. And I do think like the storyline that I'm like most interested in is the Washington Capitals and I know that I think they finished first in their not conference but in their division, is just the fact that Ovechkin has been doing this for so long and he's like still the captain, still scores a ton of goals, but he's not necessarily like as good as he was, but he's 39 years old, and it's like that is a story that I'm like, dang, if he can get another Stanley Cup, I just think that'd be super cool. So that's kind of the storyline that I'm fighting for, even though I can't say that I'm a Capitals fan or an Ovechkin fan. It's just it's fun to watch people that are the best of their generation, and then I think we define so heavily on how many championships you won versus like personal accolades. I just think it'd be fun to see him take that team to win it all.
Yeah, I guess there's still a record he's chasing. So Gretzky has the most goals all time if you include the playoffs. So he is still chasing that record technically. But yeah, I've never been a big Caps fan because I was a Penguins fan. Obviously people that live in Alabama and California historically Penguins fans. Because so similar. Yeah, no, just they were good in video games when I was a kid. Jaromir Jagr. So yeah,
yeah, so good in video games.
Yeah, they had Lemieux and Jagr on the same team in the '97 NHL game, and that was just nuts. So
that's why I was a Red Wings fan for half my life.
Yeah, they were always another top-rated team. Yeah. Anyway.
Oh my God. Yeah, with Yzerman at who's their forwards? Those epic like Red Wings teams. You had like Steve Yzerman,
Sergei Fedorov.
Oh my God. Yeah, dude, they were like a cheat code in video games too. Especially like back in the day when it was just like you'd play like on your Game Boy and they were all so fast and you'd just score every goal just spinning around the back of the net and trying to go on the weak side.
Well, that's why all my first teams from like middle school are like the Niners and the Red Wings, because I always just pick the best team to try and win because I was so competitive.
Yeah, that's how you end up with so many random like teams that you like. Anyway, I mean that's how I ended up a Mavericks fan, right? Like I hated front runner fans. I can't stand them, so that's why I hated the Lakers. And people in Alabama, for whatever reason, they are big Atlanta Braves fans, but they do not cheer for the Hawks or the Falcons. I don't know why. For whatever reason, Atlanta being the closest major city, like everyone and their mother in the state of Alabama is an Atlanta Braves fan. You can't find a Falcon or a Hawk fan, which is just crazy to me because why would it be any different? We also don't have those, professional sports here. But anyway, so I ended up being a Mavs fan because they were good in video games, and I thought it was hilarious that there were two white guys as the stars and Steve Nash and Dirk Nowitzki. So that's, and then Penguins because of video games. Yeah, video games shows a lot of my sport. And even now this isn't why I became a Raider fan, but Tecmo Bowl back in the day, if you ever played that game on regular Nintendo, play as the Raiders. Bo Jackson's the running back. He's faster than every other character in the game, and you can literally zigzag and score a touchdown in every play because they can't catch him. It was just whoever designed that did not play test that game because and by the way, when you're not giving it to Bo Jackson, you're giving it to Marcus Allen. So even the backup running back for the Raiders in that game is unreal. So
which actually reminded me of during draft night they brought my boy Amon Green out onto the stage and
Amon Green
at Lambeau, and I even like told Dakota, my wife, that I was like, hey, see that guy right there? She's like, yeah, and I was like, that guy used to create Alex Sparks' nightmares in some Madden back in the day.
Yeah, for those who have ever played Madden, it's a sports game, football, video game. Amon Green, when he was running back for the Green Bay Packers, Vinny wanted to always see how many yards he could get, so he would call some passing play, tuck the ball, and with Brett Favre's slow ass run all the way back to the 1 and go down his own 1 yard line. Then give the ball to Amon Green so he could get 99-yard touchdowns. It was infuriating. I was actually the commentator a lot more than you. You didn't play against me that much. I don't know who you played. I was commentating back in my commentating days, but yeah. So anyway, long story short, the whole point of this was now we actually do watch a lot more hockey than we used to. Back then it was from video games, and now we actually watch hockey. But I was just never an Ovechkin fan because I was a Penguins fan. I watched a lot of Penguins, and they were rivals there for a bit. I mean, not so much now when the Penguins aren't making the playoffs, and they still are. And plus, obviously, Gretzky's the great one. I didn't want to see his record get broken just because I think he's an overall better player, whereas Ovechkin's the best goal scorer ever. I think Gretzky's still the best player ever. But yeah, I still think it was cool the way it happened, that he tied the record in the same number of games, which I thought was pretty neat. But yeah, he's still chasing the record for most goals in the playoffs. But yeah, go ahead.
Speaking of abusing video game glitches, I know Amon Green was a little bit earlier. The only thing that can compete against Vinny doing that was like maybe bombing at the Randy Moss with Culpepper every time. But once you got around 1999, 2000, 2001, the newest trick was just picking Michael Vick. And then you just ran around everywhere because he was like basically the Bo Jackson of Tecmo Bowl. And I think that's where my love of Vic came as well. So
Oh, I thought your love came from the dogfighting ring that you used to take part in, no?
No, that was many years later.
Yeah, I guess that's just one thing that it doesn't matter how far, we move technology-wise, whether it's 80s, 90s, or 2000s video games, they still haven't figured out that making one character faster than all the others does not work. You can't have one character be able to outrun every other person in a big open field.
And honestly, it's so funny because like speed obviously kills in some of these sports, but they're not like a real life cheat code. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like look at the Raiders. If speed mattered, the Raiders would be good every single year because they are notorious for drafting for speed. But even I look back on like FIFA days, like I could take like Cote d'Ivoire to against anybody because like they had Didier Drogba and like Eto'o and then you've got like players like Cavani and Falco that were so fast. Like all you need is like a super fast striker in all these video games. So it is pretty crazy. Like speed in video games, like they just have never been able to account for it. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the problem is like in real sports, like sure there's a guy on the field who's the fastest guy out there, but you can play against that, right? Like you maintain your zone, you push him towards the sideline. There's things you can do as a team to isolate, or to prevent that player from getting an ISO and just beating one guy one-on-one and that be it. Whereas in video games, you only control one character, and they kind of play like Pee Wee soccer teams where everyone follows the ball. So all the defenders, instead of like maintaining zones and cutting off angles, they all just run following the ball. So if you run backwards far enough, you can get them all trained in a straight line, and then you just get to run all the way to the end and not have anyone there. Whereas actual human beings wouldn't do that. They would take different angles to cut off your access. There's no way you're going to be able to make it, by running around in circles like that. So I think I don't know how you fix that, right? Because you'd have to just have smarter AI, and the last thing the world needs is smarter AI. I know it's coming, but that's going to be
also
real scary.
Real human beings like are affected based off what they eat that day, and maybe a sore hamstring or something like that. You can't just run max every single play, every single time, every single opportunity. My favorite, but back to Vinny's thing, is like Ronaldo was that in the video games for probably 10, 12 years. He was just too fast, too good, too easy. It's like, well, if you picked whatever team Ronaldo was on, then people. So like if people picked Real Madrid in like ranked games, then the other person would always pick Barcelona or something. It's just like there's always just some broken characters.
So wait, since we're on the topic, best sports game of all time in your opinion?
Sports game?
Like video game. Best video game of all time.
Well, so
sports related.
So the problem with that is like there's a lot of nostalgia involved because with sports games, a lot of them is just like you play seasons, right? Like, Madden, there's a new Madden every single year, right? So like it's hard to like am I picking it based, do you want me to pick based on like the features they have or based on like my memories?
In your opinion, like what would it can be nostalgia. Nostalgia counts. Okay. Like you can put something on a pedestal just because it's like before its time or the nostalgia aspect or even like the people that are in it. I think people still talk about like Madden, was it like 06 with Vic on the cover that they like still like oh that's the best version of Madden like of all time. So whatever you think.
Okay. For starters, 2K5 was ahead of Madden for like
10 years. Dude. Mitch just stole mine.
Johnny Shelton? Is that what you're talking about?
No,
Okay.
Madden, 2K5.
NFL 2K5 with
Okay.
T.O. on
They
the cover.
Madden bought out. I forget the name of the group that does the 2K games, and they bought them, put them on a what's that deal called where you pay them to not make a game or whatever it's called. Uh, so they bought them out so they didn't have to compete in sales, and that's why that 20-year contract ends. So that's why, like I think 10 years ago they had like NFL Legends or whatever. They couldn't use any of the NFL players, but they used all retired players and got like the contract worked higher again on a 10-year extension. I forget. I've read all about that and everything. But 2K NFL was amazing. And then I think the second answer would be probably it's either '09 or 2011 FIFA, one of those two.
All right,
Uh,
I'm gonna have a controversial take here. Mario Super Sluggers, Mario Baseball for the Wii.
Mario Super
That game
Sluggers. Yeah, that
is
is.
so much fun. Particularly, I mentioned commentating. So one thing that I always loved doing, and my friends always loved me doing it, was I would commentate on the games. And so many people told me like, oh, you should go into it for real. Well, I can't go into it for real because the stuff I said would not be allowed to be said on networks because I made fun of the players a lot. I made jokes about the coaching. Like I was just cracking jokes and being sarcastic while still covering what was happening. So I mean, maybe there's a market for that, but it's not going to be mainstream. But anyway, that game is just so wacky with all the stuff that can happen that like it just made it fun for me. So I really enjoyed. I mean, there's quite a few games that I would comment on that I enjoyed, but that one comes to mind as like something that I did a lot of. So I'm gonna go with that. In fact, I think my top three are all baseball games, which earlier I kind of made fun of baseball as a national pastime, but I think all three of my favorite sports games are baseball games.
What was the that baseball? So actually, weird, just random flashback. One of my earliest memories of Alex and your brother Adam is playing a Super Nintendo version of baseball,
And everyone has special powers.
and everybody has special powers.
Dude, that
And
game's
this is
amazing.
this is at the condo in Desert Breezes back in that bedroom. I remember this like very faintly or vaguely, but that baseball game was pretty epic and really hard to find. I can't remember what the name of it was. I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah, it's like something 2000, but I mean the game came out before 2000. So
All Stars or something
It was
like
back
that?
when like the number 2000 was supposed to seem futuristic. My cousin Will had
Yeah.
the game, but yeah, and when we say wacky powers, it'd be things like you would hit the ball and it would make your controller be inverted. So like up is down, down is up, left is right, or like they'd hit the ball and the whole screen would spin until the ball landed. Like wild powers like that. So yeah, that was definitely a super frustrating and fun game to play both. But yeah,
Yeah.
Super
Super
Nintendo.
Baseball Simulator 1000. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, that could be it. I knew it had like the 1000 in it because like some of the players were robots. Like it was wild.
Yeah. So no, that actually opens up kind of a lot of different conversations on that. Mitch took mine on. I think NFL 2K5 is the best. So then I'll throw out two controversial things. I think Tiger Woods Golf like 2001 is just epically awesome. Back in the day. And then your Mario Baseball got me thinking Mario Tennis is a great time. And like if we're talking nostalgia, like I don't know if I've had more fun playing video games than when we all used to play NHL Hits together. So I might throw out NHL Hits just because of how much fun we all used, like literally everybody, like people that didn't even like playing video games or were bad, like good at video games, like Chris would play, Jimmy would play, like everybody would play
101011.
We'd put on like like the everybody falls down as soon as you get touched, like the fumble mode for Blitz.
NFL Blitz, yes, I forgot about that.
So man, dude, so many good options. Props to the sports video games. They just don't make them like they used to. Like there hasn't been a sports video game that's like made me like want to get back into sports video games in a really long time.
Well, I think the reason for that is because all of like a lot of our great memories have to do with playing the goofy sports video games like Mario Tennis, NFL Blitz, NHL Hits, like things where wacky, crazy things happen. Those kind of games, I don't know if they still make them. They might, but like they're not the kind of games we would buy now as adults. Like those games aren't marketing to adults; they're marketed to kids. So like if they came out with a new NFL Blitz, I'd be like, oh, that's cool. I remember loving that game, but I would never actually spend money on it, right? So like we're not buying those games. The games we are buying is like, oh, there's a new Madden or there's a new PFS game or whatever that we might buy. And then it's just like, well, what has the best features or the best graphics or whatever. So I think a lot of the reason is it's not that we wouldn't enjoy those games. It's that like we're like conditioned now, like, oh, we're adults, we shouldn't buy that game. That's kiddie. But like that was what was fun about it, was that it was kiddie and playing with our friends. So if right now the three of us could boot up NFL Blitz, a new one or an old one, we probably would, right? But like any of us individually on our own going into the store, we're not going to buy that to play online. We're going to buy like Madden or MLB The Show or whatever to play online matchmaking.
Also opens up a can if you start saying like, do we consider like the old school wrestling video games for 64? Do you count
WrestleMania
things like, do you like Punch Out? Like, is that in the conversation? It's like there's just so many directions that you could go in like best sports video games of all time. But yeah, just since we were on the topic of like how we all kind of video games kind of steered us towards liking certain players or teams, I thought it was just a nice little segue.
Yeah, I think that like most kids that are into sports, they're into sports either because that's who their parents are into, or because that's what was good in the video games. And so, for me, as someone who grew up as a kid, in Alabama, I moved to California when I was in 4th grade, so I have childhood memories from both, but like growing up originally in Alabama, there is no hockey team. My dad didn't follow hockey, so I never watched hockey. But I did play some hockey games, and in the games the Penguins were good. Therefore, I became a Penguin fan. Whereas football, I actually, watched football, so I developed my own team from having watched the game. So I think it's different based on whether you're watching the games or playing the games.
Just food for thought. Miles and I played Mario Strikers like a couple of years ago, and that was fun as hell.
Exactly, right? But that's not the kind of thing you would think to boot up, right? But like it's still fun. Those games are great. But like that's not the kind of thing you think like right now when we get done with this, I know you're not going to play any sports game, but if you were going to go play a sports game, it's not going to be Mario Strikers. You know what I mean? You're going to
it would be MLB The Show,
exactly.
And that's because the pitching is super complex.
Yeah.
Although I do have one of those like Nintendo emulators with Tecmo Bowl on it, and I'm thinking about plugging it up to my laptop, my desktop here.
If my regular Nintendo was here, I would be playing either Tecmo Bowl or there's a baseball game that I loved on that.
We just cleaned out the garage and I found my Super Nintendo, and I actually have the Sparks' copy of Mega Man Soccer.
No way. Yo, I want that back. I love that game. I forgot about that game.
That game is Mario Strikers before Mario Strikers. It is so good.
Okay, next time I'm out there, Vinny, I'm gonna get that from you, and I'm gonna boot up because I know where my Super Nintendo is actually. I have that, so I'm gonna get that from you. That game's great.
We got to get it. We got to get a match in first though. Next
for
time
sure. Oh, for sure.
Okay. I have an emulator on my computer as well, but half the reason I bought the Switch was because there's this thing you can pay for that lets you play all the old 64 games, and you can just play Banjo-Kazooie, all of them, everything on your Switch. And if you played GoldenEye recently, it's almost impossible to move around because I forgot that you moved around with like the C-pad, and it was just like, I can't kill anyone. It was like the hardest game ever. I'm not even kidding. Like try to play GoldenEye on like a 64 controller or on like a computer or anything now. You forget that you had to use. It wasn't like the joystick to move. It was like joystick to aim. It's really weird.
Yeah, dude. I played somewhat recently, like maybe a couple years ago, and I was like, how did we see anything? Like you don't even know what you're looking at the time.
But yeah, the Switch. I'm telling you, you could play. Ocarina of Time. You can play all the Zeldas. You can play, oh my gosh, what's the one after Majora's Mask? You can play all of them. That's why I pretty much bought the Switch.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. Like when you think about the N64 control, I know we're no longer talking about sports here, but you guys listen this long on the podcast. If you're still here, you probably enjoy video games too. Growing up, the N64 controller was like an extension of your hand. Like it just felt so perfect, so natural, so normal. Looking at it now, that controller is wild. Like when you compare it to every other controller for every other console ever made, what were they smoking when they made the N64 controller? That thing just
100%.
It makes no sense. Like Mitch said, like just thinking about using the C buttons to move and the joystick to aim is crazy. But that game was amazing. That game was amazing, and like
amazing.
literally, I could do anything with an N64 controller back in the day. But yeah, but now who knows, right? But like maybe muscle memory kicks in. But like, it is funny that if someone came out with a system now, and the controller was like the N64 controller, people would be like, "What are you thinking here? What are you thinking? Like, what you're crazy." Whereas back then, like, oh yeah, it's totally normal.
Yeah, or I mean, if you just think about like products and product development, props to whoever invented the PlayStation remote, because at no point in time has PlayStation thought we need to revamp this controller. Over the last, what, like 30 years? Like since PS1 came out, it's still very much like the same. Isn't that crazy? Like, they just haven't even worked on optimizing PlayStation controllers all that much, you know? Oh, I guess it is like maybe it's a little bit more like the Xbox.
But they're
now.
very well. Yeah, once they got to the PS5, they did kind of go more. But yeah, so
you need to do the Elite.
This is
controller.
the PS1 control. Like, I wish I could. Hold on. I'm trying to see if I can find. Here we go. Well,
The Elite controllers copied the Z button,
There we
that's
go.
for sure, with the triggers on the back paddles. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
I mean, but yeah, dude, look at this picture here. Like, there's not a whole lot of variance between
So this-
Oh my
like the
gosh.
OG.
why is it?
Wow.
So this
That's
is
such a
PlayStation 1.
throwback.
PlayStation 2 is the same thing but black. PS3 and PS2 were identical. PS4 got slightly thicker, so it's easier to hold. And then PS5 is where it finally got some change. It got much more rounded on top, and the triggers are different. But yeah, PS1, 2, 3, and 4 are all almost, 1, 2, and 3 are pretty much identical, and 4 is very similar. It's only once
That
they got
controller
PS5 they made a
reminds me
change.
of Grand Theft Auto at your house and Final Fantasy 11. That controller right there just instantly made me think of Grand Theft Auto 3 or 2. I can't even remember.
On like the PS1, like for what?
Oh,
It was
that's
the- it was-
that's
I
a
think it's two.
GTA
GT
2 and Final Fantasy 7.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
so
thank
GTA
you.
2 is like the
That's
top-down view when it was still top-down. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay,
Yes,
so yeah,
that
that'd be
one.
GTA 2. Yeah.
Yes.
Yakuza.
So that's what I remember. Yes, the Yakuza running top down. And then I remember tapping X on that controller during the cutscenes when you like
Yes,
summon
when you summon GFs, yeah, you gotta tap, you gotta.
Yeah, dude.
I could make my
don't
hand
go
twitch.
over, or you have to
It's
start
like-
over. Yeah.
I don't do it anymore, but I used to could make my hand twitch. I don't know why. It's probably not healthy, but I could, and I was better at boosting GFs in that game than anyone else because I could make my hand twitch. And so I was just as fast as people. That's like the one game you wanted a Mad Catz controller for, because you could like turn on that auto like
Auto
tapper feature.
turbo button.
Yeah, auto
Yeah.
turbo button.
Yeah, that's cheating though. For
All right,
sure.
let's try to move back to the sports world a little bit, and we'll talk about the big trade today. Cowboys trade for George Pickens, Steelers wide receiver. So the Steelers still have no quarterback, and now they've given away their number one wide receiver. I know they brought in DK Metcalf, but let's face it, Pickens was their wide receiver one. So yeah, Cowboys went out and brought in another offensive weapon. Steelers got rid of an offensive weapon, which if you're trying to get Aaron Rodgers to please come and play for us, Aaron, getting rid of his weapons doesn't seem like a great plan. So far, they've gotten rid of their starting running back, their number one wide receiver. What do you guys think of this trade from both sides? So I'll let you guys, pick who wants to be the Steelers, who wants to be the Cowboys.
I don't care. I give
Steelers.
either
I'll be
one.
the Steelers.
All right, so
Are you
Mitch.
gonna-
Oh, dang, I gotta be
Mitch,
the Cowboys.
Yep. Well, you should have said you don't care. So Mitch, you're the Steelers. Why is this a good trade for your organization?
Because you're probably going to throw the ball the least amount of time, even with Rodgers. That's the one thing people don't realize is he's very good at running the ball. The Steelers are probably going to throw the ball the least. You don't need the wide receiver needs. Okay, the ice cream guy is driving by my house. Do you guys hear that?
I don't, but now I want ice cream because earlier a girl was texting me about getting some ice cream later, and now you guys are talking about this.
I thought I had to acknowledge it because it was so loud. Oh my gosh, I apologize. So I thought you guys were just going to start laughing. But anyways, okay. So back to it. You don't pay. I think if you look at the salary cap, they are the number one team paid to the defense. So they have the most money allocated. Last time I looked, I think it was 115 million out of 195 salary cap. They're one of the few teams that has over 50% to their defense. They're not going to pay two wide receivers. They're not even going to throw the ball that much. You just went out and got Metcalf, someone maybe you could trust. Pickens is kind of is a loose cannon. Like let's be real here. Some of the stuff he does is is out there. Like he might be like Antonio Brown when Antonio Brown was starting to go, south. And Pickens is a character to say the least. And the Steelers, I know Antonio Brown was a Steeler, but the Steelers don't do characters. So like, I know they did Russell Wilson too, so that's really hurting my case. But what I'm trying to say is this makes a lot of sense for the Steelers, just to get Pickens out of there. And if you look at the draft record, the draft history of the Steelers drafting first round wide receivers, they've all been so bad. So it's just kind of just another, and the fact that they even got a little bit compensation out of it is a huge win for the Steelers. I don't know what the Cowboys are doing. I mean, you're going to have Pickens play opposite Lamb, and you've got all that money already sank into Dak and CeeDee Lamb. What are you doing going out and getting another wide receiver? It's just this one has to be on the Steelers side. But go ahead, Vinny, convince me otherwise.
I mean, if I'm the Cowboys head coach and I get to be like how I actually feel about the trade, I'm like, what the F is Jerry doing in that front office? But since I will defend this, Dak is healthy again. We were not good. The whole conversation, everybody's out here bashing the Cowboys, and the whole conversation for the last couple of years is like, you don't have a true number 2 wide receiver. Like since Gallup went down and Cooks is getting old, and last year we saw that, like, whereas like, let's just throw the ball to CeeDee 200 times, and we can't beat up our star wide receiver like that. So we had to go and get George Pickens, who, hate him or love him, like he's going to be out there and he's going to be competing and he's going to open things up for our offense. And, I think, especially since we've kind of got this like running back committee, we're going to be throwing the ball a lot. We're going to spread it out, and we needed somebody out there. And, we didn't get our guy in the first round of the draft. We wanted the Pat McMillan out of Arizona, and he went early to the Panthers, which hilarious. Who knows what the Panthers are doing? But it's just one of those things. We needed to revamp the offense to be competitive, to match our defense, and we're gonna fling it this year.
My question to you as the GM of the Cowboys is, why aren't they using draft compensation to free up financial alleviation for maybe signing like the best defensive player in the league, or what's his name on the outside?
Michael Parsons.
Thank you, Michael Parsons. Well, they got to re-sign him, or you use draft financial compensation to go out and get someone's lineman who they drafted the last couple of years, not someone's wide receiver. Go get like a second or a third round offensive lineman that's been doing well that you can financially alleviate on a team. And with it's like those were your biggest problems, was solidifying up that defense with financials, and then getting an offensive line that could, because Dak and CeeDee Lamb are more than capable. Pickens doesn't, like, that's just overkill in my opinion. Like that line has to be picked first. That's my issue with it. It's like I don't mind someone going out and getting Pickens, but the Cowboys is ridiculous.
So
because we're the Cowboys, Mitch. We're all about show. Wide receivers are show.
We are America's
jump
team.
In on that. We are entertainment.
Hold on, it's not just that. Show. Here's the reason. It's because my name is Jerry Jones and I'm 82 years old. And I've got to win now because I'm running out of time. Yeah, re-signing Micah Parsons might be best for the future of my franchise, but I may not be around for that. So I need to win now. In the draft, we were targeting wide receiver. He didn't fall to us. As Vinny said, he got taken. So in the draft, in the first round, we took an O-lineman. We addressed that need in the draft. Now we need to find someone else to put on the other side, because last season, CeeDee Lamb had 78 more targets than the next wide receiver. 78 more targets than wide receiver 2. He's getting the ball thrown at him almost every play, and that's great because he's great. But imagine if they couldn't triple team him because we had someone else catch. So we're going to go out and we're going to get somebody else because I'm Jerry Jones and I got to win now. And yeah, it is a show, but we can't run the ball. We had Emmett back in the day, but Emmett's been gone for a while now. We had a couple years of Zeke. We brought Zeke back. That didn't work out. Rico Dowdle, he finally played decent down the stretch, so we let him go. The Steelers didn't want to pay Pickens. He's on last year of his rookie deal. And I don't know if you guys saw, but Dallas ain't paying him either. They're going to let him play out his rookie contract. Dallas is in win now mode. Now, I'm not saying this is a good move to win now, but that's the reason they made the move. They think that by adding another offensive weapon, because they're going to be throwing the ball 50 times a game. That Dak was 2 years ago, not last year because he got hurt, but 2 years ago, where he was chucking the ball 50 times a game. Give him 2 legit wide receiver threats instead of just one, and maybe that can rack up some dubs.
Okay, for reference, in 2023, Dak threw for 400 fantasy points in the league that we talk about. We do 6-point pass TDs, blah, blah, blah. We don't have to get into all that. It was an average of 25.5, which is right at that elite mark, or sorry, 24.5, which is right at that elite mark of what I want in drafting a QB at 27.7. So this last year, the 400-point mark QBs were Lamar Jackson with 500. Good Lord. And then Joe Burrow at 450, Baker Mayfield 434, Josh Allen 420, Jaden Daniels 400, Jared Goff 385. Does this improve his already capable 400-point possibility seasons, or is just hurting CeeDee Lamb's fantasy?
I don't think it does either. I mean, I think it. I don't know. I think Dak has that potential, but a lot of things have to go right in that offense for Dak to hit those numbers. I think their lack of a guy like Tony Pollard with Zeke is going to hurt their overall offense and not having the offensive line. But I think this opens things up for CD. I mean, he's not going to get the 200 targets, but he can actually become someone who the entire offense doesn't need to focus around 24/7. So I think it keeps CD relatively at the same value, and Dak maybe improves a little, but I think Dak's days of being elite are probably over.
Can I be real honest? Or sorry, Alex, answer the question, but then I'll follow up.
Yeah, so I just think if Dak can stay healthy, and that is a big if, I think he's a guy that can go out there and he can chuck up the rock, and he can give you that kind of like those. And I'm not saying he's as good as Brett Favre, but he can have a Brett Favre season where he throws for 5,000 yards and 40 TDs, but he has 25 picks, right? Like, I think that's what's going to happen here because, like we mentioned, who's their running back? Their running back, they got Javonte Williams from Dallas. He wasn't any good. They got Miles Sanders from Carolina. He wasn't any good. Deuce Vaughn wasn't any good last year. I don't even know who these 3 freaking guys are. I think Jaden Blue's a rookie. So they have no running game. And so, unfortunately, like, you do need some semblance of a run game. Like, you have to at least have the threat of running the ball to open up the passing game. But having 2 legit outside threats at wide receiver, I think will allow them to just chuck the rock. So I do think, what was it in 2023 is the stats we were talking about. Does it show his total? Yeah. So in 2023, he threw for 4,500 yards, 36 TDs, and 9 picks.
That's really good.
No, it was great. And this was with CeeDee Lamb and nobody else. And this is why I drafted him. And prior to that, he got hurt in this year, 4,400, 4,900. Like, he's had, the problem is he can't stay healthy, right? He played a full season. He threw for 5,000 yards, 30 TDs. He didn't play a full season. He played a full season. He threw 4,400 yards, 37 TDs. He didn't play a full season. He plays a full season. He throws 4,500 yards, 36 TDs. So he is a baller when he's healthy. And historically, he's been healthy every other season. He wasn't healthy last season. He only played half the season. So this is his healthy season. So if you're going based on pattern, if this is the season he plays all 16 games, and now you've added another legit threat, this can be a 5,000 yard, 40 TD season. I do think the picks are going to rise because there isn't going to be a running game, but I think Dak can ball out this year. I don't think he's got a ton of years left because of the aforementioned injury issues, but I think he could ball this year. CeeDee Lamb, we know he can ball. We saw what he did even with Scrubs at QB this season, and we know George Pickens can play because George Pickens put up 900 yards receiving. Can you even name a quarterback on the Steelers last year? Like, they were all terrible. It was Russell Wilson? Gone. It was Justin Fields. He couldn't even throw the ball, so he got benched. I don't know. I feel like this is going to be a strong offense as long as the running game isn't abysmal. One of these 7 dudes is going to have to be okay. They don't got to be good, but you can't average 2 yards a pop and expect to be able to pass the ball. So as long as someone here can be okay and give you 15 totes for 50 yards, then I think they'll be all right.
I have 2 follow-up questions. One, Josh Allen last year was at 434 or whatever in our leagues, but can I see what he scored in that league that you're showing?
Oh, sure. I was using this to look at career stats, not at.
No, that's fine.
I just use this because it shows the whole depth chart. But yeah, you want to see fantasy points?
Yeah, because he did 351.
Yeah, fantasy points last year he had 384.
So Dak did 351, and the number one guy last year was 385. So that's how elite Dak is. I'm trying to say.
Well, I don't think
My other
I don't think he would have number one, right? Lamar probably would have number one.
Oh, was Lamar one in this one? Sorry, I apologize. He was one in all.
Yeah, 434.
Oh, geez. Yeah, Lamar is crazy, though. Okay, well, more reasonable quarterback. Like
Sure,
Josh Allen.
sure.
Okay. So that's really good. And then my second thing is like, how much? So Pickens as the number one wide receiver on the Steelers. I know all the Steelers doesn't throw and all that kind of stuff, and their QB was Fields for half the year or whatever. But he was not even in like the top 34 fantasy players. So it's like, or top 36 fantasy wide receivers. Sorry. So like, how much better is Pickens than, I hate to say it, Brandon Cooks last year, who, when healthy, seemed to be pretty good? Like, how much is he really going to be that much better than what Brandon Cooks was last year? Is my question. Like,
well, but Brandon Cooks didn't get
Pickens
to play.
Pickens is trash. I would never. I don't want to touch Pickens with a 10-foot pole in any fantasy league.
That's what I think.
I don't think he's that good, but I do think he's an upgrade from what the Cowboys had, and maybe he's just been bad by situation in the Steelers.
Also, you can't judge Cooks too much on last year because Dak was hurt, right? Cooks didn't play with Dak; he played with the backups, right? He played with Cooper Rush.
Look at 2023 Cooks, though.
I think he's better than 23. I mean, 2023 Cooks was on his third NFL team. Like this isn't Brandon Cooks in his prime. Like Brandon Cooks in his prime was fantastic, right? But this isn't who they got. When you get to your third NFL team, it's not because you're still a baller.
I just want Mitch to keep talking himself into drafting Dak because nobody else in the world will get you 45 points and then 3 like Dak Prescott will. And I hope that when you get 3, it's in the first round of the playoff.
He was a garbage time hero, and that's why I drafted him. Unfortunately, he got hurt, so he didn't play enough garbage time.
I think it's on this podcast. I can find it on one of the previous episodes, but I told you before the season that I was probably going Dak and Jaden. Those were my 2 picks. And the only reason I went Josh Allen is because he failed to me. So I am 100% on board with Dak. I'm just wondering, does it even really significantly? I'm not sure George Pickens really even affects Dak's fantasy value. That's what I'm getting at. But I'm still high on Dak. So it's kind of, yeah.
That's a new thing to be high on for you.
I think if he can stay healthy, it's like Alex double dipped. He got Tua on the healthy year, and then he tried to play the same game with Dak and missed.
Yeah, but if I didn't miss, oh man, that's my team would have been pretty nasty if I didn't miss.
For sure,
I mean,
100%. That's what I'm trying to say to you.
I would have made the playoff. Like I would have made the Super Bowl, and I don't know who would have won had I not benched Aaron Jones. Well, I mean,
yeah,
not that I can't let it go, but I can't. If I don't bench Aaron Jones last week of the season, I win that game. And then based on just my average starting lineup, I would have won round 1 of the playoffs. And round 2, I would have started all the same guys except tight end. That's the only question mark is because I don't know what tight end I would have started because mine didn't play that week. I would have had to pick a tight end off waivers. What's up?
Speaking of whiff, Justin Tucker was the most solid, safest pick for legit like 12 to 15 years. No, like legit at least a decade. I finally go like early round, I think it's like round 8 or 9, something ridiculously over the top that you're never supposed to draft a kicker. I take that kicker. He has the worst year ever of like any kicker out of all the kickers. He has like off-field incidences, and he just got cut. Talk about whiffing on a player.
Yeah, I was about to say...
You could have drafted him 1 in 14 years and been great all the 13 other years.
Yeah, that was my other NFL news, was that Justin Tucker gets the axe because people keep coming out of the woodwork to accuse him of being inappropriate. How is it these people can't just keep their hands to themselves and keep it in their pants? Like, you're famous millionaires. Surely you can find girls who want to sleep with you without you having to sexually harass them. It can't be that hard, right? Like, normal guys can pull girls all the time. When you're rich and famous, surely you can get some without having to go and be a scumbag.
Yeah, the Justin Tucker thing, it's kind of a sad story, like, for the other half of the, I guess, like, the defendants, you could say, or the plaintiff, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, the girls. But, dude, talk about just, I mean, every time I see a picture of Justin Tucker, it just cracks me up. I'm like, dude, this dude's just, like, out there, like, coming on massage tables. Like,
it's weird that you picture that in your head, bro. I never referenced that. Oops.
I mean, like just like this NFL kicker, Justin Tucker, just like this like weird looking kind of nerdy.
Oh, this league didn't have. I was gonna pull up his picture, but I can't because this league doesn't have kickers.
Out there busting nuts on massage tables and, and loses his career.
As someone who's gone, I go around. I've been to quite a few of them in San Diego, and the last thing I want is that I actually want a massage. So it's even more wild to me. It's just like really weird.
It took you a while to get to the fact that you want a massage. So I'm like, what is Mitch about to say here when he goes to these massage parlors in San Diego?
Hey, there's a really good one in Santa Mesa, and they do it's basically like a chiropractor, basically, and they're good. Yeah, no,
Did your friend Justin refer you?
Justin Tucker? No.
You talking about Pirate?
Yeah.
Oh. I know Justin Pirate because Justin Pirate once told Matt and I about a massage parlor in Palm Desert that gave happy endings.
Oh, so. There's a bunch in the desert. There's probably more in the desert, Alex, than there is in San Diego.
Right, but the reason I find it funny is because he's a cop. So it's funny that the cop was telling us about where to go for for this. Anyway, moving on, running out of time here because I know you got a heart out there, Mitch. Any other sports stories that you boys would like to discuss?
No, I mean, I think this Pickens trade was for sure. Oh, there was actually, as a result of the Pickens trade, and we don't have to go on for too long, but like, is there another athlete? Okay, I've been reading articles about it. Rodgers goes to the Steelers. We all know who Rodgers is going to bring with him, right? At this point, he's bringing in Alan Lazard. And like, is there a dude who has made more money than Alan Lazard off just like riding Aaron Rodgers' coattails? Like between him and like Randall Cobb, like dude, Aaron Rodgers, Jordy, yeah, but
Jordy had some years that he was a baller though. That's different.
Yeah, but Jordy would have not been a baller on any other team for anyone else.
Right. Yeah, but he didn't just go sign like $12 million contracts as like Alan Lazard.
But Alan Lazard has never been a baller. That's the difference, right? Like, yeah, you can make the argument that there's guys like Brandon Stokely. Like Brandon Stokely, is not a household name. We would never remember the name Brandon Stokely if he didn't happen to play with Peyton Manning as his quarterback, right? We would never remember the name Brandon Stokely. I'm not trying to throw shade at him, but like we know that name because he had Peyton as his quarterback, and even as wide receiver 3, he was putting up 1,000 yards and 10 TDs as wide receiver 3 for Peyton, right? So that's why we remember that name. So sure, you can make the argument that Jordy Nelson would not have been as good without Aaron Rodgers. I'm not going to sit here and debate that. But the difference is Alan Lazard has been with Rodgers just as long, if not longer, and in more places than Jordy ever was, and he's never been relevant.
I mean, I could name two, Wes Welker and Julian Edelman. Are they any good anywhere else?
Well, Welker wasn't. Edelman never played anywhere else. But I mean, but that's taking too much away from the player, right?
Again, for like multiple contracts.
But again, though, those players had good seasons, right? So who's to say? Like, I'm not saying their play is not elevated by the quarterback, but like, I'm not going to sit here and say they're not talented. I don't think you can compare them to Lazard because the difference is Lazard has been with Rodgers and has not been good. It'd be one thing if he was following Aaron around and was getting 1,000 yards and 10 TDs every year, no matter where he played with him, right? Then you'd be like, oh, he's really benefited from it, performance-wise. No, his performance is still medium at best. He just follows Aaron around.
Okay, I know Rob Gronkowski is amazing, but is he considered the greatest tight end ever if he doesn't? When he was traded to the Lions, he told the Patriots and the NFL that he retired. That's how little he was going to play with anyone but Brady. Brady goes to Tampa and he's like, you know what? I might play again. There's another leech. Come on.
Yeah, but I just...
I think you're taking too much away from the players that play well. Like, you're hurting your own discussion was like, has anyone benefited more off coattails? And my argument is no, because like Alan Lazard would not be getting these contracts with these teams if not for Aaron Rodgers.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas Rob Gronkowski would get a contract with another NFL team even without Brady. Like he chose not to play, and that's that's a different conversation. But like it wasn't that no one wanted him; it's that he didn't want to play with anyone else, right? Whereas I don't think anyone wants Alan Lazard.
But Randall Cobb, wasn't he around for how many years before he had a pretty solid career.
He did, but
No, he
he was
had a
also a
solid
quarterback
career.
in college. Like Randall Cobb played with Favre, I think, a couple years. Like that's all as long as he's been around. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like Alan Lazard did not earn that contract that he got with the
Probably
Jets
not.
at
Probably not.
all, right? And like now if he goes to the Steelers, and this is like hypothetical, but like in sports, I just don't know of another situation of like people following another athlete like this. Like I can't picture a basketball scenario. I'm sure it exists, but it's just hard to off the top of my head. I can't think of a basketball scenario, baseball, hockey. Like okay, Gronk and Brady, but like dude, if you're Gronk and you're like the greatest tight end of all time and freaking Brady wants to run it back in Florida, you're probably buying into that, right? So but it just doesn't happen. Like I don't know like and I don't think they're giving like Lazard discount deals. Like dude got like like 3 year, $30 million contract or something like that from the Jets or something. And I'm like, he is not a 10 to $15 million wide receiver. Like he's making just as much money as Josh Jacobs. Like no way. So
Yeah,
um
it gets a little blurry for me because then it could be like all those offensive linemen that played for like a much better quarterback. So like if you played for Brady or Rodgers, you probably got an offer somewhere else, even if like the Patriots or like Ross Tucker, who played for Patriots for a couple of years and then went to a couple other teams, bounced around. Like a lot of these linemen who like they might get like Mekhi Becton, he was considered dead in the water with the Jets. He goes to the Eagles and he's considered on one of the greatest offensive lines of all time. That might have a lot to do with that running game and Jalen Hurts and the other guys around him. So it gets in the gray area of like how many linemen did these great QBs give them opportunities that maybe they shouldn't have. They weren't as good, but their QBs were calling the perfect audibles and the perfect coverage and the perfect protection every time, like Rodgers, and they're just benefiting massively off
yeah,
of that.
but let's say
So
Jalen
it's
Hurts
tough.
goes to another team. Like
Yeah,
Mekhi Becton's not following him there. You know what I mean? Like
true.
I just don't see like this whole
That's true.
follow thing is just crazy. And like the fact that Aaron Rodgers at 40 years old has the sway to be like, hey, I need you to pay Alan Lazard $15 million if you want me to come. And they're just like, what the hell? Like, so Alan Lazard's just out there being a average wide receiver three, making $15 million a year just because Rodgers is his buddy. Like, that's just wild. It's a wild concept.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's some coaches' favorites that get paid that don't deserve it, but who knows?
So that was the one sports thing that I kind of wanted to talk about today because I just saw that rumor with the Pickens trade, and I was just like, oh my God, if this happens.
The Cowboys are gonna want to be entertaining, regardless. And what's it called? Oh, I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh yeah. Do you remember who we traded for Anthony Davis to get Doncic? Do you remember?
Um,
I assume
yeah,
you're
it
talking to me
was
because you use the term
Brandon
"we," and I'm not a Laker
Ingram,
fan, so I think you're talking to Vinny.
Yeah.
Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, Randall. No, not
And
Randall.
no, not Randall.
Josh
Hunter, which was
Hart,
like Hunter, which was like our G League star coming up.
Kuzma. Did Kuzma
Close.
go as well in that trade?
Is Ball.
Oh, and Ball.
Yeah, so those for those years basically got us Doncic is how I look at it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Josh Hart's like a key piece of the.
And
Yeah, it was an
Ingram,
interesting trade. Sometimes I always wonder though, like, BI did pretty good down in New
yep,
Orleans. Josh Hart's been
yep.
really good in New York. Lonzo's been dealing with some of his injuries, but I always wonder like if we actually made out okay in that trade because so much of it hinges on LeBron being there.
Well, that's
Those
what the
dudes were
ridicule.
trying to keep us competitive without Braun.
That's what people are saying is like you traded all those guys for one championship in Davis because he hasn't been healthy enough to win us another, and he definitely from this season onward is not going to be healthy enough to win us another. So it's like you traded all those players for one championship in Davis. Well, it's like no, technically we then compounded that into Doncic.
And a first round pick and Max Christie. Come on now.
Makes it, I think it validates it a little bit. But yeah, I didn't mean to change it. I remember thinking of that when we got off the topic, and I was like, I'll wait till the end of the podcast to bring it back up because we already did basketball. But yeah, I mean, Lazard is a leech, sure, but if he goes to Pittsburgh, he's going to get drafted in fantasy.
Yeah.
Basically,
So
Alan Lazard is
let's go with this question. Do you guys think that Rodgers will sign with the Steelers? Do you think that's going to happen?
I still think there's a couple other teams he's waiting out for.
Right, I've heard your conspiracy theory. So
no.
I'll rephrase it for you, Mitch. I'm going to rephrase it for you. Do you think that Rodgers will be a starting NFL quarterback come week 1 of this season?
Yes, 100%. I think he's waiting for McCarthy's situation. He's waiting for the Niners situation, and he's also waiting for the Rams. There's a bunch of reports out there before Stafford re-signed this offseason or whatever that they were going to bring in Rodgers for one last go. And so if Stafford can't stay healthy, there's all these reports. I'm sure there's a bunch of clickbait and everything. But as of right now, I think it's Vikings, Niners, Rams. Go on.
I don't think so. I'm voting no. I don't think he actually wants to play.
I think he only wants. I think he saw last year that he's not good anymore, and I think he is afraid of coming back and just doing it again. I think he would only come back if he thought he had a chance to win. I do kind of like. Well, I don't like it because I have Stafford in a keeper league, but I don't think he'll be a starter week 1. But I can see a world where we get halfway through the season, something happens to a guy like Stafford. The Rams are in playoff contention. They've got a good roster and they need a quarterback, and the Rams reach out and he comes into play. Because then that way he can come in and be a hero for an organization and still look good and have a good team behind him. Or if it doesn't work out, he can be like, well, I wasn't expecting to play. I only came in the halfway point, yada, 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 and place the blame elsewhere. I don't think he wants to have the weight on his shoulders anymore, because I think even though he's a whack job, he finally realizes he's not the guy anymore.
And the Dolphins as well. I think you're 100% correct, Alex. I think at that, I narrow it down to training camp. He's waiting for that to happen in training camp. If Stafford survives health-free through training camp, he's not going to be a Ram. And this was more before Stafford re-signed or whatever. So I think he's waiting for, correct, halfway through or even all the way to the end of training camp. I don't think he'll actually wait till week 4, 5, 6, 7. Then I think he'll actually just retire. But I think you're exactly right. This is what he's doing. He's waiting for that to be the narrative, and it's going to be somewhere a couple weeks before the season starts, where Tua's hurt, or Stafford's nursing an injury, or one of those situations. 100% correct. That's mark my words. That's what's going to happen. Or McCarthy's had a terrible preseason, and they don't want Daniel Jones.
Danny Dimes? You don't think they want Danny Dimes?
So I think that's great. I just don't think Rodgers is willing to do it at like week 6 or 7. I think at that point I would be willing to bet he was just going to stay retired. But yeah, I think that's all the same narrative. I don't buy yeah, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, speaking of Rodgers, I just had the realization that Mitch and I are Alex's Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb. If you think of our childhood and the coattails that we've ridden our entire lives, Mitch and I are Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb.
Well, I mean, as you know,
Alex's Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, my friends get shotguns, so you guys have to ride in the back. So you are kind of riding my coattails when I drive you everywhere.
I'm down with being Alan Lazard.
Yeah, I know. It's been pretty good to us, Mitch.
Speaking of funny things with Mitch riding in the back of the car, do you remember one time we drove home from Santa Barbara, and Alma was with us, so you rode in the back. You fell asleep. Do you remember what happened when we got to my parents' house? Okay, you don't. You managed to toss and turn so much that you had tied knots around your body with our seatbelt, to the point where we were seriously debating having to cut my seatbelt with a box cutter to get you out of the car.
I remember that now.
We could not for the life of us figure out how to untangle you from the seatbelt. It legit took 10 minutes to get him out of the backseat of my car.
At least I was wearing my seatbelt.
No, you were, but like it was so impressive. Like how you managed to tie knot. Like I want someone, like if you're listening to this podcast,
if we were driving
go
back
sit
from
in your
Santa
car,
Barbara,
go sit in your car and put on your seatbelt, and then try to tie a knot around yourself while the seatbelt is still connected. It's an impressive feat, truly.
If we were driving back from Santa Barbara, I probably wasn't mentally all there. So Yeah, I do remember that now. I'd forgotten that. I usually have a good memory of things, and then I just seem to forget certain, like a lot of, but whatever. That was
Well,
sophomore year. I do remember now.
All right, boys and girls. I think we got to wrap it up because Mitch, you got to go to work, right, bud?
I do. Yeah, I got like 10 more minutes, but we do need to wrap it up within the.
All right.
Any
Well,
thoughts?
thanks so much for being here, boys. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
no, that was a fun, eclectic episode.
It's always a blast hanging out with you boys. All right, I hope everyone listening at home enjoyed it. Especially all the bots that randomly listened to 2 episodes ago. Somehow we got 40 views on a video, and the next one had 4. So I'm not sure what happened there, but as long as we're having fun, we're gonna keep making these. So for whoever it is that listens, hope you enjoy it. And
Someone, someone definitely fell asleep and has that setting on where it just replays.
Definitely not a good sign for how they perceive that episode either. Just for whoever listened to 40 plays and all of a sudden they're just like, nah, dude. No, that's not for us.
Let me go to our YouTube real quick.
It's also, I'm wondering if it has any coincidence with like the Marvel movies coming out.
But it's just like look at our views, right? We had 1 view, then 5, 27, 36, 4, 7. Like it's all over the place. What happened? We had 1 guy, and then 2 weeks later we had 27.
one view to 27 and 36.
That was our best one too. That sucks. No, I'm just
Hey,
kidding.
hey, those views just tell me one thing. It's a good thing you and I and Mitch enjoy this.
Yeah.
Wait, if you scroll
Well,
scroll down,
that's what we're doing it
you
for.
can add up all those views and it doesn't equal the 27.
No, that's not true. We had
No,
like
wait,
our
no.
first couple episodes had 32, 38. The
Oh,
Wheel
nice.
of Destiny is my most popular video. 48 views on this season of Wheel of Destiny.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm pretty sure I'm multiple of those Wheel of Destinies because I watched it multiple times. Hey, Mitch, Alex, who's not in that picture on the episode 7?
Episode 7. Oh, you mean when we went to Las Vegas and we had our
there's
friends
a
all
lot
come
of
out?
people not in that picture. Like the whole world except for you two guys.
Well,
Actually,
no,
there's a lot of people behind
Rey
you. Yeah, there's
Mysterio
people
was in
behind
this
you.
picture from WWE. He was at the game, so
My bad. There's besides whoever's in that stadium.
Oh,
Dang, that was
awesome.
well. Maybe we should start hashtagging all the Marvel stuff, and then we'll get them to.
yeah. Switch back
Yeah.
to the Doctor Doom pictures instead of the football pictures.
Or in the
Football
future,
leagues.
I'll start having presentations, and you can pass the board every
By the
time
way,
I.
did you guys see what the picture I posted for last week's episode? The Saints stunned everyone by picking Tyler Shaw with the 40th pick. Reports say the Saints got kicked out of the draft, and by the time they logged back into Yahoo
Yeah.
app, it had auto
They
selected.
they auto drafted.
No. What's funny is actually there's a rookie draft that I was part of over the last couple of weeks, and he actually did get auto drafted.
That's great.
So
Wait, what's wrong with Tyler Show? He probably might be starting for them by week 1.
Well, in an actual rookie draft, but I mean, I don't know. I just thought it was funny.
in a real draft, that was good.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, we're logging off right here. But here, food for thought. Let's pretend we're going through training camp, and it's like week 3, week 4 of the preseason. You've only got a couple weeks till the start of kickoff, and the reports are that Tyler is winning the starting job for the Saints. Does he have any fantasy value?
Well, so I mean, if he has a starting job, yeah. I mean, not in a standard league, but in a league like this one, which is a 2 QB league, a super flex league, absolutely. Any starting QB is going to have value in a super flex. Real quick, one last thing I wanted that I thought was kind of interesting. So this is a dynasty league, so we only draft rookies. As you can see, Shador Sanders went in the 3rd round here. So this is where Shador Sanders goes. If we go to the waivers, so this is waivers. After that happened, there's only one claim. Where is it? A single claim for Dylan Gabriel. He was the last guy picked up off waivers. All these other guys were before him. He's the last guy picked up off waivers after the draft. Only one claim was put in for him. And he was drafted 2 rounds above Shador by the same team.
So everyone thinks Shador's going to start, is you're saying?
So everyone thinks, yeah, and this isn't just this league. I think mostly, I think everyone thinks Shador's going to be the guy, not this guy. Well, and Flacco, obviously, so same waiver list. 2 people put in claims for Flacco, and he went much higher in the waiver order.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's clickbait, but some of my more trusted sources are saying Shador's going to have trouble making the roster because they're not going to cut
That's
Deshaun
entirely
Watson.
possible. I just think it's interesting that even though all the GMs and organizations are saying we don't think Shador's that good, all the fantasy players are still like, no, Shador's the guy. Shador's the guy.
There's a real disconnect. We'll see.
There's a real disconnect. This is going to be one of those where he's just not any good and doesn't make a team, and all the GMs just look totally intelligent, and all the fans just look dumb. Or he's going to end up being a starter, and we're still going to be scratching our heads like, what happened? So it'll be fun to find out. I hope it's option 2 just because that's more fun of a story. But yeah, let's wrap it there. I know you got to go. Thanks so much for being here, everybody. Say goodbye, fellas.
Adios.
Yeah.